Okay. So in the last class, we have discussed about various like basic things about JavaScript. Okay. Let me share my. So, so in the last class, we have discussed about various things related to JavaScript. We actually scratched the surface of JavaScript. In this thing, we have discussed about DOM and basic things like variables and different data types. I mean, the things like strings and all. And in this class, we will kind of go a bit depth into those things like strings, objects, or maybe arrays and functions as well. That's what I have planned to do. So, do you guys have any doubts regarding the last session? Like you can ask it now, and if I need to take something again, I will go through it. And like it's okay. In the last class, we have actually decided to go through the surface only, and we didn't actually mean to go in deep. And here onwards, we will go everything. We'll take everything in deep, like in depth as well as possible as possible. So we can actually move on to the topic. Let me open the code editor. Okay. So okay, this is like sorry for the issues. Like sometimes my VS Code doesn't. Okay, I think. Are you able to see my like code editor and everything? So do I need to enlarge the font or do I need to maximize it? If you have any suggestions, you can say. I mean, do I need to increase the font size or something? It's fine for. Is it fine for you? Can you see this thing? Do I need to increase it? It's fine, right? Okay. Okay. So in the last class, we have talked about things like we can write JavaScript in two forms. Either we can run the JavaScript in a browser or we can run the JavaScript in the machine using Node.js or some other engine. Sorry for the background sound. It's like the time zone. Sorry. So we can run it like in the browser or in the machine using Node.js. We have installed Node.js in the last class, and I hope you guys have installed it in your machine as well. And if you have faced any difficulties, I told you guys to talk about in the Discord. I didn't receive any kind of queries, so I assume all of you have done that. So the one way to write JavaScript is like we can run it in the browser by linking it in the HTML file by giving this script tag and telling them where the JS file is located. The other way is to directly run it in the terminal using Node.js. So like we are going to since our like currently our aim is to learn JavaScript, so we will be running it in the terminal only. We are not going to do perform it in the browser, and both will perform the file like exactly the same. But now we will be doing the terminal thing. So I'm gonna clear all this thing which is already present. So in previous class we have discussed about variables, different ways to create a variable like let name is a variable. Then I'm gonna give this thing like teacher. And this is the one way to declare a variable. Another way is by giving using var. The reason why I'm facing okay. It's okay. If the another way is like name to is like I'm gonna give name to be okay. So these are the two ways which I can declare a variable in JavaScript, let or var. This is the basic things. And so actually this thing is actually a string because we have written inside double quotes or this could be inside single quotes as well. If this is started with single quote, it should end with a single quote. And this is a string, and we this is actually one of the primitive types in JavaScript. And if I say this is actually what is this? This is actually a number, which is another primitive type in JavaScript, and there are other primitive types which we have discussed in the previous class, which is like null, which is like an empty value, or undefined. Undefined goes to something which is which haven't defined yet, and we have some other primitive types as well. Those are like we have discussed about it in the previous class. And about the string, actually we have some more things to discuss about string. So okay, so I can actually this in this case name is a string, so I can actually print the length of the string. Okay, you can see length of the string, and if I print it to this console, I will assign this to a variable. And if I print the length, okay, if I console dot log length, let me open the terminal. Okay, so if I oh, one second. Okay, so if I say if I do like node index.js, oh sorry, uh, okay, sorry. This is actually because my what? Okay, see, I ran this file and I actually got the length of the characters in this string. This is like in this case, the name is Regit, so it has like 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 characters in this thing. And if I actually want to print the first character, I can. Okay, I have one question. Like, is this like here you can see is like name dot length. I'm actually calling a property of this string. So actually, is this a function? Can somebody say that this is something similar to function, but is this a function? Like, can you guys answer this thing? No, like it's fine. So this is not a function. This is like the reason is like string is actually a type of object. But when I created this thing, this is actually uh, a primitive data type. And when what actually the JavaScript did is like this converted this to an object type. So that's why we have some extra features for strings. So I mean, we have some extra things to do with strings. Like string action, this is actually getting converted to an object. We haven't discussed about object yet. We will go through it today if it's possible. And so this is actually getting assigned a type of object. So now the object has a set of properties, and this is one of its property. I mean, we can find the length of a string. We can objects like say I told you like string is an object. So object have some properties and some functions as properties. I can find the length, or I can convert the string to uppercase. I can convert it to lowercase, and it has some other properties as well. So yeah, here in this case I have like printed the length. So here I got it. Like how I did it, I just ran the function, ran the property like name dot length, and this gave me the length of the string. And so if I have something like I can also do like name dot, I can convert this thing to uppercase. Okay, I think this is how it was done. Okay, this thing actually will convert this thing to uppercase. This is actually no shit, what. Okay. Sometimes my coordinator doesn't save the file automatically. That is causing the. Okay. What happened here? Like name dot to uppercase. Okay. Like I'm printing this here. Uh, okay, we will go through it. I think we have to go through it. This is actually okay. So okay, the reason is like I told you, the string is an object, and object has two things. Object has properties, like properties associated with it, and string has some properties, which is one is length, and it also has some functions as properties. Converting this string to an uppercase is actually a function. So we told like now we have to actually pass this parameters, like these parentheses. So now only this is actually a function. Now we are calling this object property, which is to convert this this term to uppercase. We're calling this thing, and this should actually print the. Okay, now this name is converted to uppercase, and this is a we invoked the function, which is a property of the object string. I think it's clear. I made it clear, and if you are still having some confusion. Okay, so next thing to cover is like, okay, so this thing performs like objects. Okay, so so okay, so what happens under the hood? How this string is actually getting converted to an object? This is done by JavaScript. So we will have a kind of go through it. Like I will let you guys know how this thing is done. Like, so if I when we create a string, what it does is like it creates a temporary object. Okay, it creates a temporary object. So if my string is like hello, and this is creating a temporary object named hello. I will show you how this thing is working. So okay, I will assign this thing here. So my str holds the value of hello, and I want to convert. So what happens here is like I'm not going to do this. And this is done by the JavaScript compiler itself. So I'm just giving you an insight how this thing is done under the hood. Okay. So what it does is like it actually create a temporary object. We are just for the sake we are giving it a variable temporary object, and what it does is it creates a new object. So new object of type string, so it's like it's passing. So what this will create an object of string, and it will have some properties like length, or maybe it will have some functions inside these properties like to uppercase. Okay, and this function will tell how to convert this to convert to uppercase. Don't find the syntax because this is pretty bad. This is like what happens under the hood. Okay, so the string is actually a primitive type, and then this string is like converted to object. And this, when I say objects, is like objects will have a lot of properties inside. Like it can, in this case, string has a property to find length. It has some function as properties, like to convert this to uppercase. This is what happens under the hood of property, like converting these two properties. Like, don't mind it if you are not getting it. So we have, okay, I can actually access a variable. I can access. So I said like this is, I can actually see str hello. I can now, like, wait, let me take this thing out. Okay, so if I say str of 0, this thing is actually indexed, which means like the first alphabet goes in the location of 0th index, and E goes in first index, and L goes in third index, so on. So if I say str of 0, I will get, I mean, the what the character in the 0th index of the variable str. And if I console log this thing, if I say console log str0, and if I print this thing, let me. So I can see I have got the first thing in the first position. Like, why did I give 0? Because we know that like the indexing starts from 0. So if I give 1 here, I'll get what? H here, right? Okay, no, I mean, yeah, E here, because E is in the first index position. So if I want to print the last element, do you have any idea how I can print the last element using the what we have discussed? We have discussed about a property string dot length. So using that property, we can actually find the last element, right? So if I say like length equal to str dot length, this should actually give me the length of the string. And okay, I will increase the size. I think this is like, okay, my screen is actually a bit smaller. Sorry. So if I say str dot length, this variable length will hold the value 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This will hold the length value 5 because like hello has five characters. The length will have now 5 as the value. If I want to print the last element, I can actually do it like str of length. Will this work? No. Will this work? Because it doesn't work. Because like if I say str of length, I will be getting the element in the fifth position. Is there any element in the fifth position? Let us actually check it out. Right. First, let me save it. Undefined. There is no. There is only an undefined element in the position. If I say like +1, like +1 also, I'll be getting an like say undefined thing. So, but the thing is like because like it's from 0, 1, 2, 3, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the last element is at the fourth index. But the length variable will hold the value of 5 because that is the length. But the index is last index is 4. So what we have to do is like length minus 1. This will give if I say like this will give O, which is in the last index. So I hope, let's see. Can you hear me? Hello. Can somebody turn on the mic if you are still here?
Yeah,
Have you understood what I said so far?
yeah,
Yeah, those are some basics. I assume you guys are able to catch it up. And if I'm talking a bit fastly, you can say that to me. Or okay, so that's so far about. So I hope I assume that you guys have understood how the string is getting converted to an object, and that's why we are having this string dot length, string dot to uppercase, to lowercase, and uh, other properties to play with strings. And you can explore more properties if you google like string properties. You will get what are the other things like. Okay, there are a lot of properties used assigned to strings. So that is one thing to discuss. And the next will be okay, arrays. Here we goes to arrays. Arrays are like another important concept, like which is similar to strings. I mean, I will tell you what I mean. So arrays like in text set of list. If you have played with Python or something, you know what list is like. This is actually a list, and this is the list. Okay, this thing we can call it as an array. Array which means like it has an index position. Like, see, this thing goes in the index position 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so here in this case, this is also an this thing can also be converted to an array. It will be like something like array of characters. You might have already gone through it if you have some basic C like what C experience. This is like similar to this, right? I mean, sorry, but I forgot. So this is like hello is this hello is similar to this. That is why we are able to find the first position, second, like zeros, first, and this kind of stuff. And this is an array of characters, which is a string, and this is like array. Array can hold multiple type of values. It can hold actually a string along with, okay, here I am having numbers as this, like numbers in the initial part, and then I am having a what a string. Then I can also as a give numbers to this array, and this will be a valid array. This is actually a valid array. I can assign this to a variable array, and this is now a valid array. And if you guys have any confusion, we can actually print this thing to the console. If we console this thing to the, we can just get rid of, no, it will let it stay here, right? And yeah, so if I print this thing, see, this is the array. The 343 is in the index position 0, and 89 is in the last index position, which is, and we can try one thing like array dot length. Okay. Uh, uh, I'll say array length. Okay. So if I print the array length, let's see, this was the property which we discussed that strings have. Okay. So let us find whether this work with array as well. So here I'm printing the length of array. So sorry, yeah, this is like the wrong syntax to go. This should be console.
The console.
Yeah, that was my mistake. I actually uh, thought about Python or something. That is my mistake. Console.log should not work. So if I print this thing, this will work now, right? So this is giving the length of the array. So array also have object properties. Array is also a type of object. It has properties like dot, length, and stuff like that. It has other properties, and so that we can actually access the things inside array using like it is indexed, right? So if I say array dot zero, it will give the element in the first zeroth index, which is in the first position. And if I, what will happen if I say array of length minus one, this will give actually the element in the last index. So that is something about array. And array can be actually not just one dimensional array, or if I say like nested, we can actually build nested arrays. So this is an array. We can actually include another array inside this array. I may say like another array is like 23 to like this is another array, but this array is inside this array, right? And I can actually include another array inside this array, and it doesn't matter. This is the main array, and this array has another array inside this thing. And if we actually take the index, we know that 343 in the zeroth index, this thing in the 343 in the first index, 55 in the second index, and 53 in the third, 53 in the fourth, string in the fifth, 89 in the sixth, and another array is in the seventh index. Okay, here not a single element, we are having an array in the seventh index. And if I just print the last element in the array, let me clear the console. And okay, if I console.log, if I console.log this thing, I'll be getting. If I console.log array, okay. Array of like, right. So length is not defined. Or because like, okay, sorry, this is my mistake. Array dot, this is actually my mistake. That is interesting. I know. What's okay? Array dot length. Okay, okay. Sorry, I'm actually see. I haven't. So the length is going to be variable which holds the value of the length. Now this variable length hold the value of the length of this array. And now let's what am I doing? Now let us print console.log array of length minus one. Now this will give the answer, I assume. Okay. So now the okay, where is I'm running? Let me comment this out and run this again. So if you can see that this time we are getting a array which is in the last position. And if I want to access an element inside this nested array, I can actually access it. I can say like something like if I know this thing instead of this thing, I want to say here I know. So I'm gonna say so here it goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and in the seventh position we are having this array. Okay, so I'm gonna say it's like array of 7. This will give the element in the seventh position, which is the array itself. But that is not what I want. I want is like the element, the first element inside this array. So I will say 0. This will actually give me the element inside the last in like the last element is an array, and I will get the first element inside this array. So I hope I made this thing clear. And do you guys have any like I will tell one more thing like which is like array has some other properties, which is like array has something like one property which we discussed is length, and array has pop property, which is like which is a function. So what which does is like it will pop the last element from the array. And if we console dot low here we are gonna console dot log, not this thing, the whole thing. And if I say console dot log array, let's see what we get. I don't like this. I don't. So here we are popping out the last element, which is the array itself. So we using this function. We have this is a method. Okay, this is a method of this object array. Array has some properties. This is one of its property, popping out the last element in the array. And we can actually push something to the array. If we want to push some element to the array, we can do it like array dot push, and I have to pass the element. I'm gonna push 1 to the array. And if I print, how is this gonna be? Like, can you guys guess it? Like, I'm gonna say, I'm gonna pop out the last element, and then I'm gonna push a new element to the array. So what it will be like? We can test this thing out. So we took this last element outside and we inserted something new, which is like a new element to the array. That is a push operation. These are the things that which we can do in the array. And there are other things like shift and unshift. We can also look at that as well if you need it. We will comment on both this thing for a minute. If I say array dot shift, I think this is the right way. Okay, if I say array dot shift and console dot log array, what happened? We initially had two elements 343, like 343 and then again 343. And in the first element, like the index position 0, the element is shifted, and we no longer have that thing. And all the elements from the first index is shifted to the first position, which means like this thing is shifted to the 0th index, and this thing is shifted to first index, and this thing is to the, that is what this shift does. It removes the first thing from the array, and later on it adds whatever was preceding that element to the first position, and so on and so forth. So I assume you got that thing. And so we have one more thing which is like unshift. So let's check what unshift does. And so I was actually not sure about what unshift does. It's like I think unshift was doing that is something to notice. You can actually go through it. What unshift does, I haven't used that much thing when I haven't used it. So you can actually go through it and check what unshift does. So I think we can figure it out, but you don't want to spend that much time. We are actually only have 30 minutes left. So next thing to go with is like we have discussed about. Okay, so we can actually have a Q&A in the middle. So any questions so far? Anything to take again?
So
We only have yeah.
it's possible to actually in runtime get value from the user.
I didn't hear you. Like,
Python.
can you come again? Like, say that again.
Is it possible to actually get use input from the user actually? Is that
Yeah. If you're asking actually, is it possible to input values into the array from like, can the user input values into the array, right?
yeah, like in Python actually?
Yeah, it is possible. You can put values into the array, like user inputs are possible as well. Like you want to actually need some methods to input the value to the array. So this could be yeah, actually, one second. Let me have to go through the input methods. Okay. So the one thing which we actually discussed is like we can use like push, right? Push can actually push in inputs from the user to the like the last element, and or we have actually see I have to actually go through it. Like we can actually only few things like yeah, push is one thing which is mentioned here, and the other thing is like let me check if there is any other options like. Okay, so inputting a value to the arrays, there is most things which we are okay. Okay, okay. So using an HTML tag or something, we can actually, I mean, using an HTML page, we can actually create an input box, and whatever that thing is inputted inside that box, we can push that thing to the array using the push method, which we have already covered. And to inputting that something to the array, we have to use push. There is no other way to push something to an array. We have to use this function push.
Sir.
Does that answer my question?
Okay, sir.
No, you don't need to call me sir. You can call my name because like I don't like that. So I think you have some doubts regarding that. Like, did I answer it actually?
Yes, yes, sir. But actually, was thinking about if I can get input in standard on like rather than using form.
Standard way you are asking whether we can put it through the terminal.
Yes, sir.
That is like only ways like you want some ways to actually enter some values to the terminal and push it to the thing. We can actually I think that is possible. We can do it. We can do it actually. It should be possible. I mean, so yeah, these methods actually, I think these are very basics, but I have to brush it up because like I don't use JavaScript in my daily life. So so whenever you ask some things, I am actually searching it on and finding out the way to do it. So 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 the thing is like mostly what we can do is like push only. The thing is like the only thing which we can do is like array dot push. There is no other way. We can only okay, simulating a scanf is what you need. Okay, if you want to simulate a scanf, right? What we can do is like and see we use scanf to enter some things to the input some things. So what we can do is like we can create a for loop to do that. That is possible, and yeah, we can creating a for loop, and we don't have a scanf method here, like so we have to simulate that using a for loop. We have to create a for loop, then input the elements into it, but in deep down, to insert that element to an array, we'll be using that push method only. But to take input from the user like iteratively, first element, second element, third element, fourth element as inputs, we have to use a for loop, and we can then we can form an array, but that we will also be using a push method to put value to the array. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay, sir. Thank you. Sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shade.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Like let's try this thing out. Actually, this was actually something to do. So if we actually let me clear this everything what we are. So I have actually docs over on my another monitor to discuss like where I have written what to cover, what not to cover, and just so that I'm looking at. One second, one second, one second, one second, one second. Sorry for the interruption. My mom actually came into the room and I just told him I was in the meeting. Sorry for the interruption. So let us try what just Akash talked about. Akash was asking whether we can actually put something into the array using the terminal. That was actually an interesting question, which we usually do this thing in see if in colleges, like we have done this thing. So we can actually try to. This is the code we are actually. Let me check this. So we are prompting prompting in the, so the prompt is the, this was actually I was missing. The prompt is the function to actually prompt something to the terminal. Okay, so we are actually gonna test this thing, and if I say what input prompt is not failed. Okay, this thing doesn't prompt. Okay, this thing only comes in the wait, index dot. I think that we have to do this thing in the browser, I guess. If I say like prompt will only come in the browser, I guess. I mean, let's check it. What the, okay, I forgot to close. Oh, there is something wrong with it. So the issue is like we have properly linked it. And let's run this thing in the terminal, then we will see what happens. Okay, see, prompt actually works in the terminal only. So here it is like we are we are trying to run this HTML file where we linked the JS file, and in the JS file we have written like a loop to actually which enters each number from the user, and we will push that thing to an array. Okay, okay. See, actually we will initially declare the array to be okay. So let's see what this happens like. I'll go. This will actually okay. See, I'm getting a prompt here, and if I say one, that doesn't work. That loop is shit. Uh, so we can actually use the for your question to answer whether is it possible to input values from the user. We can actually do it, but using a similar way, which is like prompt. Prompt is something which we can do, like we can insert it insert. We can actually grab values from the user through the browser using prompt. Okay, here in this case, we are actually we can actually take this thing. Oh, okay. So if we say like uh, was it taking? Is it taking? No, it was not taking. Okay, wait. That is all. If I reload it again, it is taking a prompt. Enter a number. It is saying okay. Let us. No, it is not printing to the console. Okay, I will come to it in the next class, or maybe I will just clarify it in the Discord itself, and that is possible, but through prompt only. What it does is it is actually inserting the values into the. We have to just loop through each element inserted by the uh, user, and then we push each element to the array. That is what happens. I will update that in the Discord channel, and will make sure I let you help with that. See, that is the same thing happens here. Like we are actually pushing the values to the array using the push function, which we have discussed, and we are taking that as an input. Okay, instead of from the terminal, we are actually collecting it from the browser prompt. Okay, that thing. That actually, thanks for pointing it out. What is it? So, Akash. So next thing is like function. We have actually covered it in the previous class, which is like we can actually have two types of functions, which is like not two. Like we can actually have functions with arguments and functions without arguments. We have talked about functions without arguments. Like it will be like something like this. We will not be passing anything as an argument. We can return any values. Like if I say return something like this will return like if I say a is if I say if I say str is and if I can return str, this will actually return. Okay. Okay. The thing is like I haven't given the function a name. Okay. That is the name of the function. Okay. So if I return this function, what this function does is like it'll print the name. Okay. Okay. Like something like this name. So let me try to print this thing. And if I print this name, I can actually I'm calling, I'm invoking this function. Whenever we call this two brackets, we are invoking it, and we are not passing anything inside this thing. We are just invoking it because this function doesn't need any parameters. So if I console, if I in the, I have to console log. So this will actually this should print. Okay, let me save this thing. Okay, this thing printed the name, and this is functions without arguments. Functions with arguments takes arguments in the parenthesis, which is how many we can actually pass different types of different numbers of arguments. We can you if the function is actually write something somewhere and use it whenever you need it. Okay, so we are writing when whatever things we are required inside a function, we can actually pass it as arguments. So here, if it's all about addition, then we will be actually taking what we need two numbers to add, right? So we will taking the num1 and num2 from the user or the developer or whoever it is calling that function. So here these we need two numbers to add, so we are taking those two numbers from the uh, user, right? And so like print sum, I will say print sum is the function, so this function should. But I cannot simply call this function like this, because I have to here I have given two parameters, so I also have to give two parameters. So this will actually console log. If I console log this thing, I will get. Okay. The wait, sorry. Okay, so what I'm doing is like instead of doing something like I should be actually giving some value, right? I was actually referring. See, here I have to give in the parameters I have to give the value. So I was actually giving something else. I was just referring this thing only. So this will actually work.
You should return something.
Yeah, anything like yeah. See, what do you mentioned?
You didn't add the return statement to it.
Yeah. Okay, I forgot to return the sum, right? That's you. That's what you mentioned, right?
Ah, yes, that one.
Yeah. Okay. This will actually work, and now we have returned this thing. and that is function with arguments and without arguments. And we have something known as scope. We have global scope and local scope. Okay, so the variables written outside the functions, which are like if I say let name is, if I say name is Srijit, this name is written outside the function, and this goes as a global variable, and I can access this name inside my function as well. I can actually say return the name, and I will just rename the function name. I'm not going to take. So if I say, so here goes the scope. Okay, actually, if I do it like this, what will happen? Like this name is actually written outside this function, and I'm trying to access this thing inside of my function, and let's see what happens. Reference like okay, sorry.
File not saved.
Yeah, I haven't saved this. See here I'm able to actually the thing is like my VS Code has some issues, like I just install it again, and so every time I have to save a file I have to just do this like control S again. So that's why the thing is like here I'm able to actually like use the variable which is written outside the function inside a function. It is because this variable is actually a global variable, and we have something like local variables. Local variables are variables declared inside a function. If I say let a equal to something like 8, and if I say if I return this thing inside this function, I will be able to do it. But for the sake we will be using this thing only. We are not going to change the function name again. Let me save it. And here I'm going to print the value of 8 because like it is a local variable. But if I try to access it outside the function, it will not be possible, right? Because like if I actually console log again, like a, this is not possible because this goes inside the object a is not defined, because this a is defined inside only the function which goes to a local variable, and it's not a global variable. That is like the global scope and local scope. And what is next to cover? And okay, we have, okay, so we have something like some logical operators like and or. And is like if two values are, if two things are both true, then will return true. And if something is true and the other thing is not true, or which is false, then will return false. I hope you're already familiar with the logical statements like and or. So here in this in programming, we can also use that thing. So if we have some multiple if statements, like here in this case, if I want to say, okay, if something's value is like, if something's value is less than 50, I want to say, if something's value is less than 50, I want to say and if that value is also and if that value is also less than 25 or like 40, I will say like it is cheaper, something like that. No, I'll say console.log, it is cheaper. So what we are doing is like we are actually initially checking whether the value is less than 50, and then we are saying like whether the value is less than 40, and if both the conditions are okay, then it will return it is cheaper. So I'm giving the value. I will say like let value equal to. I will say it's like I'm going to say 20. So this will actually, let me run the code. I missed something in the thing. So it is actually returning cheaper. So, but the thing is like, if I want, but see, okay, if I say, okay, if I say something like, if I say like, if the value is less than 50, I will say it's a bit cheaper. And if I say if the value is less than 40, I will say it is extremely cheaper. But if I say something like 45, this should print actually, what will this like? See, if the condition is the I mean, what I'm trying to say is like the order of this thing matters. Like if I'm actually initially saying this if statement, this the first thing to be executed is the initial if statement, and then it checks the next if statement. And if both thing is correct, then it will, the initial what is written inside the second if statement will execute. And if the first statement is correct, and this will give the, okay, let me check it. Let me, it is giving, I haven't saved the file. So it is actually telling us that it is a bit cheaper. And if I say like, it will say, what? We can actually print both of it. So the thing is, we can actually replace it because if we want to say if it is less than 50 and less than 40, we can do it. Like that is possible by using AND operator. We can actually use AND operator instead of saying using two nested if statement, because we can say like something like if the value is less than 50 and I assume this is used like this or this like, and the value is less than like, and the value is this doesn't make sense, but say it's like less than, if it is less than 50, it will be anyways less than 30. I know it, but I'm just trying to make sure, I mean trying to convey how this and works. I'm not getting any examples in my mind. So way cheaper. And something was, okay, I think actually I have written something wrong. Like this and statement should be inside this, right? Okay. Now this thing should work. So the value is actually not why this statement is actually not getting printed is because like one of this thing is actually not true, because like the value is not less than 30, but it is less than 50. If I say like 20, this will work. That is actually one thing which is and the other thing which we have is like logical or, which is like if any of this thing is true, this will print. And if both is also, if any of this thing is true, this will print whatever is written inside the console, I mean inside the condition. If both is also true, this will print. So we can actually, oh, this is saying way cheaper, and even if I say 40, this will actually give the result. It's way cheaper. So that is or, and that is logical and then we have two things like we have some data structures like queue and so what. So this thing is like queue is like a data structure where we insert values, like say imagine it's an array. So it's like 23, 2, 4, 6, and this is like the queue is a data structure where we insert element in the end of the list. Okay, so if this is the list, and we will be inserting elements in the end of the listing only. And queue is like queue follows a principle of uh, first in, first out, or FIFO, or we can say it like last in, last out, or maybe like yeah, first in, first out says like is the point. So 23 is the first element we have inserted. The first thing will be going outside the queue will also be 23. So we will actually we can discuss about the queue data structure in the next class, or maybe like we have already reached 9:30. I think I have some like I have messed up this class in some way, and we can we can discuss about what like Akash talked about, like how can we insert, how can we take the input from the user and like on the basis of something like a prompt, and we can push that values in the array. That is possible, but not using the terminal. We can use the console, we can use the browser to do that by using the prompt. And we will, I will post that code in the Discord, and will share how it is possible. And some things which we are not able to cover is queue and some other data structures. And yeah, that so we also we are not able to cover objects as well. So I actually planned to cover the objects, but we were not able to hit it up. And I hope like Logesh will be mostly taking the class tomorrow, so he will cover objects and the later things. So thanks for joining. And do you guys have any questions? Anything? I mean, it's okay since we only five of us are in the class, and if it's you guys have any questions regarding this thing or outside this thing, we can take care of it. I will be closing the recording now, and the form link will be the same as that of previous one.